Richards tries scooting there alone. It pinballs to the crease. Score!
Let's get it.
Oh my God! Here we go.
You're listening to the Street Bullies podcast with your hosts, Derek.
How you gonna get it, Bubba?
John. Matt Casey.
Unnecessary, but totally necessary.
And Cody.
What's not to love?
What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Street Bullies. My name is Derek.
And I'm John. What's going on, everybody?
And we have one Matt this week.
Maybe
half a Matt. Yeah.
You have about 60% of Matt here, but it's still better than 100% of Hoagie.
Ooh.
I was going to not try to stomp on his throat tonight, but
right?
Thank you, Casey, for doing it for me.
No
Hoagie,
problem.
if you're listening, I miss you. No, we got some good stuff to break down in terms of the games last week, and well, good stuff. Other than that, ooh, Hoagie is listening, guys. You see that? Way to go, Casey. Given the circumstances, and you're just gonna go for the throat, man. Shame.
I don't know.
All right, on to more important things.
We've got game recaps, Carter Hart's hot start, and a couple other things that I haven't jotted down yet, but we'll get to them. But first, we want to get to it also for you, those of you or the Hoagie that are watching. We didn't do the banners. Thanks a lot, pal. So we're just going to kind of fly by the seat of our pants here tonight. But games last week, Flyers ended up dropping 2 of 3, 1 in overtime to the Rangers, which is the first one. But altogether, given the performances, John, tell me your overall thoughts about those 3 games here.
I don't know how this team just doesn't get stomped out every game. I mean, me and Matt Casey had the luxury, I guess, of going to see the
Quote unquote luxury. Yeah.
the Rangers game live, and that game should have been like 6-0. I mean, the second period on its own was just like an everlasting power play that just never stopped. I'm almost like excited that the fact that this team can remain in games, but at the same time, I don't know. It's so
not
puzzling.
enjoyable.
It's not enjoyable. I feel like I'm watching, 55 minutes of shit, and then all of a sudden, like, we wind up getting a point out of the game, which it's better than last year.
Certainly. I agree. Matt Casey.
Doing sketching nudes over there? Like, what's happening right now?
Man's got to do what a man's got to do. All right, leave me alone. Matt Casey.
He's drawing like Jack Dawson in Titanic over here.
He's like one of the French girls, John.
I look at that Rangers game that John and I were at, and I think it was like 6 minutes left in the second period, and we're like, God, we just need this period to end. Like, this is horrible. But at the same time, we had a chance to win in the third, in overtime, and Carter Hart probably deserves something. Like, you got to be able to get one goal. But we weren't. I mean, they almost doubled us up in shots. And so it's tough to, the biggest takeaway that I have just so far, what we're 10, 11 games in, is like, yeah, offensive woes, that's a legit thing. And without arguably our top 3 established forwards, it's even, more prevalent. And so it's frustrating, but you know what? You take 3 of 6 points on a road trip, I'll take that. That Toronto game was ugly. That game was not good, but you know what? Looked like a good bounce back in Ottawa.
I was listening to the Stick to Hockey podcast with Jason Martinez a couple days ago when he had one of the guys on that talks about the Leafs. Yeah, the Toronto guy. You listened to it as well?
Yeah.
I thought it was an interesting back and forth, and I'm kind of just pinpointing one specific instance. We all know the incident with Matthews and what happened, and how, TK, I don't consider what he did like dirty at all. Like, was it maybe a little extra? Like, okay, sure.
Right.
But was
Clearly
it like
a moment of frustration?
Was it a moment? Sure, we'll call it that, a moment of frustration. But like, it wasn't necessarily like, oh my God, why'd he do that? But the reaction from Matthews and just I guess like I don't know how else to put it other than like almost just boisterous, like, I'm better than you and I don't have to do this. Like that doesn't sit well with me. And I
No.
think that's part of like a bigger discussion. But I'll go back to Casey here first. What were your thoughts on that? We'll call it an interaction.
Yeah, I just, TK, good for him for just jumping in. He's been, I would use the word inspirational this season so far. Like
Sure.
he's been scoring, he's been mixing it up. Like he's been everything that you would hope Travis Konecny would be, and probably a little bit more. And he's not the biggest guy, obviously. And he's going after Matthews, who, is it me or does he look like the cartoon version of the Addams Family father? Like he has the creepy mustache and like the bags under his eyes.
Yeah, I mean, if he did deadlifts, maybe like
he's a big dude.
He's a big dude, and like Konecny got jumped by a bunch of like friggin' Neanderthals twice.
Sure, Dono and Bunting both.
So I think Matthews looks like crap, and I think that's essentially what that podcast was saying, is that Matthews kind of looks like a chump right now.
Right.
And I hope we just throw Delorier on them in December when we play them again and just say like, Nick, feast, go.
Well, you would hope so, but I don't think Toronto's going to let anybody near him when they play him again.
Well, I mean, I think like league wide, it's kind of like frowned upon to go after the stars at this point. It's like, Austin Matthews can't be touched because if he breaks his hand, forget it, he's out. And there goes, league revenue because he's not dropping 60 goals.
But when a guy does something like that, though, is it not warranted at least?
Totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. I'm just saying it's like the Tom Brady thing for like, the stars where it's like, I don't know. I mean, he did look like a chump, and it would have been nice to see him actually,
get his
write
due.
the check that his ass can cash,
Right.
or whatever that saying is. But
I'll flip it though. Like, look, we all hate Crosby with a passion, and we have so since 2005 or whenever it was,
Rightfully so.
When he came in, and we have gone after him as many times as any team ever has. And to his credit, you know what? Sometimes he throws down too. And you look occasionally, especially against the Flyers. Like he'll.
I think that's the reason I don't like him, because he's a little slime ball that always gets his little goons involved.
See, I think he gets the calls all the time, but like I'm probably very distinctly talking about that 2012 series. That was just freaking mayhem.
Where Letang jumped Timonen, and it was Timonen's only fight of his career.
Right.
Lost a massive amount of respect for that guy.
Right.
Oh,
so
that was rough.
I don't know. I think I think Matthews looked like a little biatch, and it sucks to do that when it's a 5-2 game and we're coming off a back-to-back jump on the border. Like, it was just it was bad. It was classless is the way I'll put it.
Yeah, great way to put it. I think there was just no class in the way that he acted. Just thinking like, oh, my goons will take care of this. Like, that's not
right.
And maybe I'm, I'll sound like the old man yelling at the cloud here. It's not how I would want to start an act. Like, if you're gonna start it, finish it, or at least
like Ovechkin.
act towards it.
Ovechkin doesn't shy away from anything.
No, God, no. Ovechkin would have took it to TK. Absolutely.
I mean, he looks like the troll under the bridge, but
Yeah, well, hey, you know what? I don't care how he looks if he's scoring 50 goals a year. Like,
here, speaking of podcasts, I was listening to one today, and I'm not going to name it because I don't necessarily have a nice thing to say about it. But they were talking about like Flyers surprises, and one of the guys on the show, no joke, said scoring depth. And was like saying that because they're getting goals from other people, that it's like surprising scoring depth. And I'm like, no, man. It's
That's
because somebody's got to score the goals. And he was like praising Zach McEwen on the power play. And I'm sorry, but like the Flyers aren't putting Zach McEwen on the power play because he's deserved it in like a real sense.
Right.
Like maybe for the people who are on the roster, he's getting an opportunity.
mm-hmm.
But pump the brakes on the scoring depth conversation right now. We've got a team full of third, fourth liners, and somebody's got to score goals.
I've got to know who said this and what show that was. I've just got to know.
Yeah, I'll let you know. And these are like legit guys.
Interesting.
So it's not like FNG or anything.
No, I wouldn't expect you to listen to anybody but, a legitimate podcast, right?
Yeah.
Look, I'll say with McEwen that, like, good for him for taking advantage of an opportunity in front of him. And he's like,
Power
he
play
knows
specialist, Zach McEwen.
he could go
More goals than Mitch Marner.
every time he was on the ice in New York. John, like, here he is, our power play specialist. But he's there out of necessity, and I'm not going to knock him for
definitely
Absolutely not.
You look at that goal he had in Ottawa, and I think it was Braun, like, just as easily could have taken that shot, but it was like, oh, good for you, man. You're taking that puck and you're going for it. Have at it, because like a week from now, he could have 2 bad games. He could get thrown back on waivers and claimed somewhere else.
Right. I mean,
Sure.
and like, I think that there's a difference between guys who might be like fringe NHLers or fourth liners seizing their opportunity, taking advantage of that extended ice time and scoring depth. Like,
yeah,
it's not depth. It's the fact that deeper down the lineup, you're getting goals. Like, and that sounds kind of stupid, but like, where's it going to come from?
Mm-hmm.
You would associate depth with quality, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Well, I mean, it would
Quality's
almost
not
be
there.
like if we had our first 2 lines intact and Zach McEwen was still scoring goals from the fourth line, right? Like
Sure.
that would be a whole different bag of beans. But it's like they're just scoring goals at this point out of necessity. Like,
yeah, someone's got to do it.
He wouldn't be getting those necessarily those opportunities if we had like a legit NHL roster on the ice.
Yeah,
sure.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah,
and Zach McEwen is just the example. I mean, he's not necessarily the one that I'm not trying to rag on him. He's done great.
Yeah,
no,
congrats on McEwen, man. Jesus.
I don't know.
Come on, man.
No, I think the one area I will say that I'm like, I don't necessarily think it's scoring depth, but it is points depth, which is the D line, the defensive core, and Tony D in particular. Like, he had a rough night in Toronto, but I think he's been solid, and at the very least, we're getting power play goals. I mean, we're what, just under 1 a game? We obviously didn't have one in New York, but I think we've had a power play goal.
Murdered him in New York, by the way. Every time he touched the puck,
they did not like him. Like, what's their gripe? Gorgiev's not even there ananymore. Like, come on.
And I think they were actually booing Braun at one point too. And we're like, dude, okay, ease up on old man Braun.
Of all the people to boo, like, come on.
It's like that doesn't say a word.
I'm just here to play hockey.
Right. Yeah. But like, I mean, back to the overall scheme of things when it comes to that week, like 3 out of 6 points against teams like New York, teams like Toronto. Great to see him beat Ottawa. I mean,
Thank
go figure.
God.
Right. Go figure. It was Giroux that scored the goal for Ottawa. Like,
chump.
Who didn't see that coming, But great to see him at least get back on track, winning a game there. Leading up to it, we've got a game here against St. Louis Tuesday, which we'll get to eventually. But to this point, and I think we can all agree on this, the biggest reason the Flyers are in these games and winning some of these games, Carter Hart, right?
Oh, okay.
No. I mean, you could make a case for that, sure. But
you're not wrong, but that's not where we're going.
Damn it. Okay.
I mean, you're looking at a guy over these past 2 games, stopped all but 2 pucks out of 70 shots. He's at a 9.71. 70 shots in 2 games.
Ridiculous.
And the one game that he didn't go in net, it was Sandstrom, and he faced 44 against Toronto. So
Poor
I mean,
Felix.
That's another thing that I didn't touch on when we were talking about the games. Just this past week, the Flyers have given up 114 shots in 3 games. Like, they are, I mean,
not bad.
Yeah, not bad. Please. That is, dude, almost 40 shots a game. That's 38 shots a game.
Well, listen, I mean, in Carter Hart's case, keep peppering the guy, man. I mean, he seems to be this seems to be when he is at his best, is when he's getting a high volume shot thing. I don't know what the technical term
when
is.
He's facing more shots than not. Let's call it that.
Sure. Because like in the beginning of this season, I mean, granted, yes, we're still like 11 games in. This is like the Pod Street Infirmary. We're all just having a really tough time tonight. But
he's our glue guy. He's our Brandon Manning.
There's those moments where he he lets in those crap goals, but it's like when he finally gets dialed in, right? Forget it, he's on. So if what it takes is to let's just keep shooting 40 shots at him and for him to keep us in games, I guess that sounds like a game plan.
If it's working, or if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's the saying, right?
Right. I look at it this
How
way,
soon
guys.
until it breaks, though?
which will probably happen. But we are obviously depleted of top end forward talent. There's no doubt about it. And you could argue we don't have top end defensive talent, even though I think the defense as a whole has been better. But I would argue right now that we have a top end goaltender. And
100%. Absolutely.
And I think if you're going to have a top end guy, and yes, environment matters, and you want to limit shots and all that sort of stuff. But if your best player is your goaltender, that's at the very least a great place to start versus, your second line left winger or something like that, who's averaging 12 minutes of ice time a night.
Right.
So I think, I don't know. I'm impressed. I'm kind of like, I feel like we've seen this a little bit before, but not to this level, in my opinion. Yeah. I think he is much more dialed in than we have seen him in a long time. And I think mentally, he just seems calm. He seems relaxed. Right. He seems like those pucks are like little stone massages on his back. He likes it.
It's the Alanis Morissette. I think he's dialed that up when he gets home.
No more Wonderwall.
Yeah, it's just Alanis.
No, we're finally
he couldn't get Mr. Jones out of his head all last year. That's what screwed him up.
We're finally seeing him play up to his potential. I mean, for how long have we said this is the guy, this is our guy, this is our franchise goalie? And then for how long have we said that and also been bitten by it? Sure. So as encouraging as it's been, yes, I like to joke about 946, is that sustainable? No, we know that's not sustainable.
Right.
But again, we talked about it last week a little bit. I think that's the second best mark when it comes to save percentage in the league. I think it's Jake Ottinger right now in Dallas.
Right.
And, he hasn't lost in regulation. He's 6-0-2. His goals against is a 197. These are the best marks he's ever put up in his career with Philadelphia to this point. So, I'm happy about it. I could go on, but it's great. It's a great start. He's holding this team together.
You know what I'm interested in? Say for some reason Tortorella gets this team contending for a playoff position, and it's January, February. If Chuck Fletcher starts to think about, getting a more veteran backup, because at some point,
with what cap though?
We need to win without Carter in there for a couple games.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I just feel like at some point, right? If and again, it's a big if, but if we're able to ride Carter Hart, to close to playoff contention, and they're able to get some sort of upgrade, I'm just curious if that winds up being a thing, because Felix Sandstrom, no offense to him, I'm just so far, right? He can't catch a win. Yeah, I mean, and I don't know if it's necessarily his fault, but we need elite goaltending to save the rest of this poop show.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm concerned about, though. And I mean, this is just surface level stuff. He's had a veteran backup his entire career. And to this point, hasn't really, he hasn't played to this level. Again, not saying he's going to play to this level all year.
Right.
But do you think there's some solace that he's taking in the fact that he knows he's the guy? He's not a 1A. He's a 1.
Yeah, but I don't. And Casey, then I'm going to shut up because I know you have something to say. But I'm not saying it more along the lines of to support Carter Hart as far as he can't handle the workload. But if they're flirting with a playoff spot, they want to make sure, because he has missed some time in almost every season, they want to make sure that he hasn't played 70 games. Where it's they can rely on somebody who is still the backup. And I don't think would affect Carter Hart's position with the team at all. But I don't know. It's just something that I think would be interesting.
I think it's a legit question. And, I don't know at what time they end up doing that. But, a couple things. One, Carter's holding this team together now. And I think the hope is that, one, you get a couple people back and maybe get a little bit more scoring. Maybe just 2 goals a game is all we really need, apparently, to win a game. Number 2 is that the D structure ends up getting a little bit better and, the team just starts playing better team defense, which I don't think it's been bad, but obviously it's not great if you're giving up 53 shots in a single game, And so I think if those things balance out, it'll help counteract Carter's, if Carter does have a down game. With Sandstrom, like, I just feel like the guy needs a legit look, not a back-to-back with travel game.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, I don't think he's necessarily played bad. Maybe that first goal or two in Florida, his first game, he wanted back, but that's understandable. It's his first NHL game in probably, 9 months. And so I think, I personally think this week, and I don't want to get too ahead of the schedule, I think he is going to get that middle game. I think it's in Columbus on Thursday. I actually kind of want him to. So but I don't know. I think overall, Hart's finally the player that we were hoping he was going to be, and the one that we saw come up once Hextall was let go. And I think that was all adrenaline and him playing well. But now this is him being dialed in and putting the team on his back while we need him.
Yeah, he's going to sign a long-term contract with Toronto.
Right.
Oh God. No, this is probably after the first week of the games. We talked about how those little goals here and there where it's like, oh crap, like you should have those.
Right.
Like starting to not see them, which is great. But like we're also starting, to John's point, see him really dial himself in, really just everything coming his way in terms of the fact that he's facing probably 30-something shots a game. The more the game goes on. Well, yeah, 30-something, that could mean 39 or 31,
or 80.
Or 80, that too. But like he's seeing himself really settle in the more the game goes on, which is, I think, the most encouraging part of this, because he's going to face a lot of shots. This team gives up a lot of shots, and they're blocking half of them half the time. Christ.
Well, that's one thing I wanted to circle back to, Casey, when you were talking about like the defense not being actually that good because they're letting up a lot of shots. I would actually say that that's more of an offensive problem, because we can't sustain any sort of offensive possession at all. It's like we can barely get out of the neutral zone, where it's like, it's essentially all the offense is happening in our D zone. That's why all the shots are happening, because we can't sustain any sort of offensive pressure.
Yeah, it's like
that's a big problem.
I eat because I'm unhappy. I'm unhappy because I eat, like that kind of thing. Yeah, that's a good point. And I think, playing off of that too, I think it was in New York again, where we saw our power play. We literally couldn't even get into the damn zone. Yeah. And I think that's one player that I do want to tout is Owen Tippett. I think is actually showing, I don't think he'll ever meet the expectations of this rabid fan base who thinks he's like, that's what we got for Claude Giroux. It's like, understand the circumstances of that trade, dude. But I think Tippett's looked really good. And so I'm impressed with that on top of Carter Hart.
His goal against, I think it was Toronto. That was a hellish shot. Short side. Snuck right past him. Like that had some snap on it.
It's no Zach McEwen shot.
He's making the little plays too. Like I can't remember. I think it's a week. Yeah, it's like a week past now. But that one where he goes back and stops that breakaway.
Yep.
I can't remember when or what game it was. But it's like those little things that he's doing well too. It's like, you could tell that he's kind of bought into that, lay it all out there and give it your best effort.
Oh yeah,
and he's getting rewarded with more ice time, more power play time. Like, part of it's had a necessity as well. But I liked what I've seen.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the team's playing well. Moving forward, as you could see how it's going to go. But in terms of moving forward here, there's been a couple benchings recently. Obviously, we're looking at the Frost benching. There's word about Ristolainen, obviously, maybe seeing an extended time up in the press box too. We've seen it happen with Konechny before under Dave Haxtell. We've seen the that'd be my kid that's yelling, yes, for me. My wife texted me as well saying, ignore him. Tough to do, when your kid finally wants
our
his
listeners
dad.
Are up in arms right now.
Right? Kid actually finally wants his dad, and here I am, guys. Consider yourselves lucky. But I'm curious to see how you guys view the benching and how it could really help, because with Frost, like, I don't know. I'm not sure if mentally he is going to be able to take that benching in stride and use that to his advantage, motivate himself, and get to a level in which Tortorella is comfortable utilizing him in the lineup. So, not specific to Frost, like Ristolainen, we can have another discussion about too, but maybe let's just stick with Frost for this point in time. What do you think, John?
Well, I actually make a little bit more of a general statement, and I think you can tie it to Frost or Ristolainen, but I think that Tortorella has expectations for every player and is going, okay, if you're going to play, this is what I need you to do, right? This is what you need to be able to provide the team. And in Frost's case, right, he needs somebody who's going to have that kind of top six forward mentality and go out and produce some points. And it just hasn't clicked. Ristolainen, the same thing, right? Ristolainen just hasn't looked great yet. And, obviously some of that's rust, but Tortorella is setting I hate saying this word now, thanks to, YouTube or whatever, setting a standard. And if you're not going to meet it, you're going to
peddling corporate jargon.
You're going to sit on the bench,
John.
And I really think with Frost, man, it's done. When you have to sit on a podcast like some individual who covers the team quite closely and just talk about these itty bitty little plays where you're like, no, I like his effort. Well, I mean, he had a really good play there in the 9 minutes he played. Like,
that's spot on.
You know exactly what I'm talking about, huh?
I might.
Where it's like, I'm sorry, but that's not what he's here for. He's not here to gobble up 9 minutes. We've got plenty of people who can do that. And Tortorella is like, all right, if this is all he's going to provide me, then what's the point of playing the kid?
Yeah. I admire Tortorella's position on this type of stuff.
Yeah.
Including the interviews today, talking about Ristolainen and just how candid he is about that. Like, he doesn't mince words.
Right.
He doesn't beat around the bush. Like, he is straightforward in his approach, in his directive, in what he says, how he says it. I love it. I think it's fantastic. And I hope that these players like Ristolainen, like Frost, can take that in stride and view it as kind of like, okay, this is what he thinks of me. I want to prove him wrong.
Yeah, I think with the Frost bench, I mean, let's go back to the two original ones, which were the Hayes and TK ones, which are those weren't press box benchings, but they were, period benchings, and they sat there with the camera on them for 45 minutes, being like, oh, guess who hasn't played right now? And I think TK has absolutely come out of that phenomenally. I don't know about Hayes. The jury's still out on Hayes for me right now. John and I saw him again in New York, and we were like, this dude is stuck in neutral. Like, he doesn't move quickly. He's not like hustling. But you could argue that it worked for the two of them and they're continuing to get better. I think with Frost, number one, like, you bench him in his hometown with his parents in the stands, like, that's ballsy. Way to go. But you get him back in the lineup. He had something to do with the McEwen goal, which is fine to say, but right now he's the fourth line center. We're flush with fourth line centers.
Right.
We don't need him as the fourth line center. But I will say, like, I think tomorrow night's game will be interesting. The next couple nights will be interesting because Toronto's like, all right, you're back on the team, but you're on the fourth line. Work your way up. And I'm hoping that's how Frost takes it. I hope that's the message that he's getting because, if he works up even to the third line center, great. Prove that you can be there. But with Ristolainen, I think you're right. I think it's a lot of rust. He's a big dude. He's got a lot going on in his personal life. Like, he needs to just get back in the saddle. And I'm hoping that he takes this in the same way that the other guys have. If not, then he's one of the few guys on the team with not a no trade clause. So,
you could count the salary cap as a no trade clause with him right now.
I think the interesting thing is, like, with Ristolainen, we know his capabilities, right? It's like, okay, we know when he bounces back, because I don't want to say if, because I need some positivity. He is a capable top four defenseman. With Frost, right? It's like, maybe he just doesn't have it. You know,
Right.
we have not seen anything besides projections that, you know, kind of show that this guy is anything more than a fringe NHLer at best.
We have his junior numbers that everybody was so crazy about, 100-point seasons, and I mean, I admittedly so, I was
Me
too.
Yeah, why
Yeah,
not? I mean,
it's exciting,
sexy.
right?
But I just think too, it's like we're at a point where Tortorella is going to stick him on the fourth line, and I just don't know if he's anything more than that. And he's not a very good fourth line center either, in my mind.
I don't think that's the fourth line we want, quite frankly.
No,
right. It's not.
I think the issue is too, a lot of people want to talk about putting this guy in a position to succeed. Like, you don't come into the NHL and automatically assume a 2C or even a 1C position. Like, that doesn't happen. So you're not just going to take him and place him in the top 6 and be like, yeah, he's earned it. No, he's done nothing to earn that. Well, but on the flip side, you put him at 3C, it's like, well, he's not with the skilled players. Like, he should be with those guys. It's like, it's a catch-22. You're like, what do I do here? So am I convinced that he's been put in the optimal position to succeed? Not necessarily, but am I convinced that he could have done more with what he was given? Oh, 100%.
Well, here's the thing, though. Success isn't based off of what a coach or any person in charge. It's not based off of them putting you in the right position. You know what I mean? It's like putting Derek at president of the United States. It's like, well, we put him there. We put him there. He'll do well, right? Like, I
felt that
get
about
it.
a couple presidents.
I get to a certain extent where it's like, you know, you want to make sure that it complements his skill set. But at a certain point, it's like, okay, when is just he received too many opportunities, and it's not about putting him in the right position. It's about he just doesn't have it.
Yeah. I mean, we're 11 games in, and he's in a prove it contract year. And we can safely say that to this date, he hasn't proved it, but we still have 71 more games to go
until he gets hurt.
So I'm not ready to pull the plug on him, but I think you're right. If like come holiday time, he's still flopping back and forth between the press box, I think you gotta cut bait, see what you can get for the guy, and just be like, we need to change the scenery for him. And, I think
if Couturier was healthy, they would have sent down Frost by now.
You think so?
Yeah,
I do. I think that they have plenty of options. I'm not going to say good options, but options for that 3C, 4C, where if they had a solidified top 6 as far as centers, I mean, the first 2 lines, they would send them down. I just don't see it.
Here's the thing. What happens when, I don't know how close he is, but what happens when Patrick Brown comes back, who is supposed to be a pretty good 4C? Like, you can't bump a legit 4C for a fringe 4C who should be a 2C, but can't keep his ass out of the press box.
I think we might finally see the fourth line that we were talking about at the beginning of the year with Brown, McEwen, and Delorier, because McEwen's kind of earned his way onto the team, and I think he's here to stay for at least a little bit. Lashinsky maybe
specialist.
Yeah, maybe we see Lashinsky come out and sit a couple games, see how Pat Brown does. Pat Brown hasn't solidified a spot on the team. So
not in a year. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So we'll see him play at some point, and maybe he does enough to stick in it. But I mean, maybe they roll with what they've got, and they're like, you know what, Pat, just hang tight. When there's an injury, we plug you in. We'll see how you do.
Right.
Go from there. I think that's the logical way to look at it when Pat Brown does come back.
Yeah. And then don't forget about the Russian rocket, Artem
Anisimov, yeah.
Oh, he was on the ice today, huh?
Yeah, still on that PTO.
That third line center is getting tighter by the minute here. So he'll be our 1C. He'll be our 2C, actually.
I'm not gonna completely discount that. So I mean, in terms of overall, I mean, I think we touched on a lot here. I think we touched on a majority of what we wanted to, but the benchings in particular, is there anything else you guys wanted to cover when it comes to that? Or I guess I didn't really mention much about Ristolainen myself, but I think he's got the right personality for it. I think he's got the right mindset, I guess is the better word for it. Yeah, he gets benched. I think he takes that as a positive. And it's like, hey, I know I've got to play better because let's be honest, he's kind of played like dog shit to this point right now. Like,
and I wouldn't be shocked to see Sanheim get benched at some point too.
Oh, are you kidding me right now?
After that Toronto play, like Jesus Christ.
Chuck won't let that happen.
Well, I mean, he's probably even like, hey, John, Ristolainen's kind of signed long term here. We need him to play.
Like, so is Sanheim.
Yeah,
well, both. What do you want to do here, Chucky? No,
but on the flip side, like Zamula isn't gonna cut it, man. Like he's down by the end of the week, I think.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see York back up then. If they're gonna seriously consider benching one of Ristolainen and Sanheim, I mean, you got to think about it. Take him out. You put York with Braun or Sealer, whoever it might be. Are you going to bump Sealer up to the second pairing to accommodate York? Like,
I'm all about Nick Sealer this year.
Yeah,
Sealer and McEwen are depth scoring right now,
and my boy Big Stick BSN.
Big Stick, yeah.
No, I'm in favor of seeing a York and Braun pair. We talked about that at length over the offseason. Like, that'd be a good one. I think Braun would do a good job to facilitate, some sheltered minutes for York. Play him on the power play, maybe on power play 2. Get him some time there. Get him with a veteran that's going to help make up for maybe some of his deficiencies when it comes to the defensive side of the puck. You know what I mean?
I think they really need to be cautious about when they bring up Cam York, because I think that unless they're confident that he can remain in the lineup, if he were to play like 2 games and then Tortorella benches him, I just think that could do some bad stuff for his psyche. I would rather, get Ristolainen back in and then have the D'Angelo, Provorov, Sanheim, Ristolainen, Sealer, and Braun, and then hope for the best, because I think until they're confident that Cam York can stay in the lineup, I think that could do some damage if he got Tortorella'd.
Yeah, it's his mindset. You got to trust that if something like that were to happen, he would take it in stride.
Sure, but after I think the disappointment of not making the team to begin with, right? Like, I just think that unlike a Morgan Frost where you can cut your losses after this year, I mean, they still have a lot invested in Cam York right now.
Yeah, they do.
So it's like you just have to tread lightly, I think, in situations.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see Sealer's been a great surprise this year. Like, I don't see him being an 82 gamer. No. And so I think at some point, York will get the call up, but I'm with you, man. Like, I think they've given Zamula a nice extended look, and again, part of it out of necessity.
Right.
But, I think his development still needs to happen down in the AHL for probably another year or 2 before we're really going to see any
at some point.
We got to see something at some point.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
So, but yeah, I'm with you. But I also, with Ristolainen, like I'm a big Risto fan. I want to see him get back to form. I hope he comes out and goes ballistic. But like the worst case scenario is he comes out and is like, Risto gonna hit now, and like just tries to just starts taking penalties left and right just to try to prove something. So hopefully he's smarter than that.
Yeah. So, I mean, touch on the bench.
Ristolainen can spell his own last name.
I don't know if I can. My wife is Finnish, and she has the amount of N's she has in her maiden name is ridiculous.
And that's Sweden.
Antonin. I'm like, Jesus Christ, what is
Antonin?
That?
All right.
Antonin.
Yep.
Interesting.
A-N-T-O.
They could Americanize it and just say Anton.
Double N-E-N. A-N-T-O-double-N-E-N.
T-T.
Yeah. They really
voodoo.
They love those consonants. Jeez.
I'm surprised you know what a consonant is, Derek.
Listen, I am not Hoagie, and I'm not here for you to take out your anger on me as I'm Hoagie. So let's cut that shit right away.
I'm not an angry individual. I'm an even keeled.
That's debatable. Anyways, so looking towards the week ahead here, we've got 4 games, obviously Tuesday, taking on St. Louis. St. Louis is currently sitting in last place.
They're having a rough go of it.
Yeah. Columbus, last place in the Metro. We have Ottawa, who is last place in the Atlantic, and we have Dallas, who is first place in the Central. So 3 games against bottom feeders in their respective divisions, another one against the top dog out in the Central Division. Fellas, what are we looking forward to here with these games?
Pointless.
Shut the hell up.
I mean,
I think we're getting St. Louis on the back end of a back-to-back. They're playing tonight.
Yes.
Back end.
Jackpot. I'll take it.
If there was ever an opportunity for the Flyers to be like, hey, we're beating teams we should be beating, right? This might start to be that moment. I mean, I'm not ready to say that the Flyers are a team that should be beating anyone, but like if they wanted to kind of add that to their Rolodex of things to be like, look at me now, this could be the time to do it, because you have 3 struggling teams. You know, you'd like to get at least 4 points out of it. They better beat the F out of Ottawa when that schmuck comes back to town.
Man, I can't bring myself to even call on that anymore.
I'm so anti-Giroux now just because it's fun.
Yeah, you and a few others that have a podcast, you dorks. Anyways, I think we should get 6 out of 8 points here. Whether it's 2 overtime losses. I mean, think about it. You're playing 3 bottom feeders right now, and the Flyers are playing decent hockey. Like, damn your analytics. I don't care. Like,
I don't know what the analytics say.
The analytics say that this team's horrible. And we've had this chat in the Flyers High and Wide group chat over the past couple of days where there was an individual who was like, underlying numbers are absolute crap and blah, blah. This team should be playing better. It's like, what do you mean this team should be playing better? Like, they're playing way above expectations right now. Are they not? Like,
right.
And if the analytics are going to be better, like, should they not be a better team, even though you expect them to suck? Like, where's the common ground here, buddy? Like,
yeah, I'm hoping for 6 out of 8 here, and that obviously the Sunday game against the one good team on a back-to-back, like that's not a good recipe for us so far. But
why not play Hart in that game though? We talked about it last week. Why not play Hart on the end of that back-to-back as opposed to Sandstrom?
Because Sandstrom would play Ottawa.
Yep. I don't think they give a Saturday. I don't know.
Well, if you play, so you talked about wanting Hart.
I want to look at the
Columbus
week.
game.
I want to look at the week after that actually to see what the schedule is there, because I think that determines if you play Hart.
I mean, and Derek, your reasoning makes sense for sure. I don't know. Claude Giroux's coming to town,
right?
But I mean, like, and kind of to your point again, I like Giroux. I'll defend him, but at the same rate, like, are we gonna treat him to this whole pomp and circumstance BS where it's like, yeah, dude, you gave us a great 14 or 15 years. Like, we're happy for you. We're glad that you did. But like at the end of the day, we all do have to move on. Like, we do.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, I think that like his first time coming back to Philadelphia, I do think that there is like, pressure's not the right word, but like you want to put yourself in the best position to make sure he gets beat.
Oh, yeah. Well, to Casey's point here, the following week, you've got Columbus on Tuesday, you got Boston on Thursday, Montreal Saturday, and then another game Monday against Calgary. So not an incredibly tough week. Like, the Boston game is going to stick out, obviously, as the tough one here. But
Calgary's good too, aren't they?
Yeah, but that's the following week. That's
Gotcha.
the 21st, that Monday.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, I'm 100% okay with Hart getting 3 of the 4 starts there. Like,
right.
I think he should. He's been playing like he should. Give him the St. Louis, Columbus, and Dallas game, and let Sandstrom take the Ottawa game. Like, Hart doesn't need to be in net against Ottawa. I don't give a shit.
You know, the one thing I will say where I do think you guys have a point in where Hart may start Dallas and Sandstrom gets Ottawa. One is you get Sandstrom a clean slate, but 2, you got to buck this trend of the back-to-back losses. And
there it is.
Throw Hart in there and be like, all right, team, you got your guy back here. Like, you gotta pony up. I know you played 24 hours ago. You got to pony up here.
Yeah, play like it. Like, they play better in front of Hart, in my opinion, and I'm sure yours too. And Hart makes the team better. So give yourself a better chance of winning these games and put Hart in net against a team where you're coming off a back-to-back.
Yeah,
I solved the problem. There we go.
I
You're
think
welcome.
also it's a good break in there too, because if you have St. Louis and Columbus, then you have Hart has a 2-day break, and then he goes in net, and then you start doing. You got to give Hart Boston that following week.
Oh, for sure.
And so, I mean, maybe even give Sandstrom Columbus that following Tuesday.
Yeah, play Sandstrom. Play him. Like I mean, he's there.
You
have to.
I mean, this
Hart's
is like,
had the rest.
Yeah, this is a friendly schedule, but like it's a lot of games in a 3-week span. We don't have a lot of back-to-backs, which is amazing. But like, it's a lot. It's every other day for basically 4 weeks.
That's November. November is essentially every other day. Out of the 30 days in November, they play 15 games. So you're essentially looking at, the occasional back-to-back with a 2-day rest. Okay, that's great, awesome. But you're playing every other night. So Sandstrom's got to get some time. Like, I wouldn't be surprised to see him get maybe 4 games this month. Like, because you're going to have to give Hart a break.
I'm curious. I can't seem to find it like really quick, but I'm wondering who like the lowest scoring team coming up is. So like if
Columbus scoring team.
It's always
So like to me, that's who you put Sandstrom with right now. Just you got to put this guy in a position to get a win.
Yeah, just
that's
one win in the NHL. Just make this guy happy, for God's sake.
Right. I mean, could you imagine? It's like, all right, so we put Carter Hart in for St. Louis, we put him in for Columbus, we put him in for Ottawa, and then we're like, hey, Felix.
God. Oh my God. So do you want to take a guess as to who the lowest scoring team is amongst these 4 teams?
Ottawa.
I was gonna say Columbus.
Neither.
I said Ottawa.
Neither. St. Louis. St. Louis has played, let's see here. They've only played 9 games, so we'll be somewhat fair. 21 goals in 9 games. That's just over 2 goals a game.
Thank you for doing the math. That was just
and
calculator.
Binnington has been playing like shit. I love it.
I mean, still, but we've got to score goals.
Well, I understand that, but if your goalie is giving up, 3-4 goals
you
a
gotta
game,
be careful,
Binnington,
man. He'll chop your head off. That guy, he's crazy.
Every goalie's crazy.
Yeah,
Binnington just exudes it because he's a nutcase.
All right, off script here. What are you guys making of speaking of benchings? Like Bellows, I haven't been one bit impressed with.
Not lately, at least.
3 games.
Not lately. He's played like 3 games.
Well, like the first game, I liked the snarl. Like when he got involved in that scrum behind the net, like that was pretty much it, though. I mean,
I don't see it. So maybe this practice time will do well for him. But like,
I'm hoping he is adjusting.
I'm not seeing it. Yeah.
Part of the problem is we need people who can produce. Like we just don't need another scrapper. We've got plenty of that right now. Where it's like if you're going to
be a goal scorer, right? That's like his MO. Like, nasty shot.
I mean, he hasn't done it at the NHL level at all.
Like new system, so like I'll give him a bit of a pass, but like you can't just plug a guy in and be like, okay, hey, go score goals.
Right?
So he earns a little bit of leeway there, but at the same rate, it's like, dude, come on, man. Like 3 games, okay, like you're still learning. I get that, but you've had some practice time. Like show us some progress. Like, get on the board. Let's go.
Who else are you giving a shot right now? You know what I mean? Like they've made it pretty clear they're not calling up Tyson Forster anytime soon.
Yeah.
I don't think there's really anybody else chomping at the bit to come into the roster where it's like, you take this guy out. Who are you even putting in and replacing him?
Screw it. Call up Gauthier. Put him on the LC. He's scoring goals.
Just sign him.
Right? Just be like, hey man, don't really care about your season up in Boston like that. Just come up here. We're gonna play you here. Oh, all right. Realistically, though, that's not happening. But regardless, those games coming up: St. Louis, Columbus, Ottawa, Dallas. We'll see how it goes. I understand that Hoagie's not here, which typically means there's no dad joke.
No.
Listen, I've got one. I'm not even going to waste my time looking.
Thank you very much, please.
Oh, you guys. Well, for the sake of John's tummy here, we're going to wrap things up. So, Casey, Just for the sake of Casey's tummy too, I guess. Am I the only healthy one on the episode tonight?
Freaking
Holy
hot
hell.
mess, man.
Right.
Pod Street
pandemic.
on Elon's little toy here.
Make sure to indicate that you're a parody account as well. All right, John.
Yeah.
Just God damn it.
You can find this podcast on all your various podcast listening receptacles, and they're great, all of them,
Every single one of them.
every single one.
Check out our affiliates over at Flyers High and Wide. They're on Twitter at FlyersHW. Check out the 5 Minute Major Pod, David Mastro, over on Twitter at 5 Min Major Pod. Check out our guys over at the Hockey Focus as well. They're on Twitter at the Hockey Focus. Check us out on Twitter. I'm at Pod Street Bob. John's at Pod Street Gove. The four of us are on Twitter at Pod ST Bullies. And fellas, that's been it. It's been a fun one. Sorry we missed Hoagie, but
I'm not.
We didn't have banners, but we survived.
yeah, I think it a little rocky at first, but we got there.
Yeah, that's
all right.
okay. We really missed that 2 minutes of witty banter. All right, bye now.
Yeah.